Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Random Question Generator. Joining me today is Pookie and Allan.
Hello.
Hi guys.
Good evening.
So let's get straight on to it. Usual catch up. Allan, anything new with you?
Oh yes, lots. I think lots of things actually. Still continuing with Castles and Crusades, which we're really enjoying. I'm quite excited about our game that's just started. We've just finished a kind of a story arc We're basically playing a D&D campaign, but using Savage Worlds rules. But we've just finished a story arc on that one, and we're moving on to East Texas University. Savage Worlds, which is fantastic setting, absolutely love it, and I'm quite excited to get going on that in a couple of weeks. Tomorrow is StabCon in Stockport, so 3 days of gamey goodness. I'm not going there representing or working or anything like that. Oh, there it is. Yeah, ETU, fantastic. So this weekend is StabCon, where I just get to go and play games and have a few beers and meet up with some old friends, and can't wait. It's going to be good.
Well, hopefully we can get you back, and we'll do like a Allan's StabCon special or something. You know.
I shall make notes of what I get up to.
Well, just don't get that drunk.
You know, always a goal.
Yeah. So, Pookie, anything up with you at the moment?
Well, I'm continuing on with the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay campaign I'm involved in. We're about 40 sessions into the Enemy Within campaign. Apart from that, I'm digging into all of the releases for Free RPG Day, which took place last Saturday on June 22nd. I've got everything, and I'm giving it proper unboxings and reviews in due course. And then I'm thinking about going to a little War Games club tomorrow at the Old Guards in Sheldon here in Birmingham. And they've got a display day, and I thought I'd pop along and see what that's all about. I'm not a big war gamer, or even really a war gamer at all. But I think there are a couple of friends there, and it'll be nice to see them, as well as have sort of like just a little nice afternoon out.
Excellent.
Cool.
I've finally decided on what game to run online. It's going to be Aliens. Should be quite interesting. Apart from that, I'm not doing a lot apart from waiting for the Moria expansion for One Ring, which is, I believe, hopefully on its way to start shipping at the moment. And what else? Oh, I'm also awaiting to be able to get a printed copy of the Final Fantasy. Sorry, not Final Fantasy. The Advanced Fighting Fantasy book, which was on Kickstarter not that long ago, to create sort of all manner of random adventures and things like that. So that should be fun. Hopefully, wait for those. So let's go on with the questions. Let me think. Allan, your computer was a little problematic, so that means that you can go first, please.
I will do that. And we have got a 5.
Oh, 5. Don't need to scroll. Right. Okay. A nice easy one for you.
Okay.
Tell us your thoughts on character death in role-playing games.
Okay. So I've had a character. It was a D&D 3.5 game, and the character was at something like 11th or 12th level. We'd all been playing this campaign for quite a long time, and I lost that character on a die roll. One saving throw, your character's dead.
Yeah.
And there was no forewarning or anything like that. No foreshadowing as part of the adventure. It was just you enter a room, make a saving throw, you're dead. And that was rubbish. That was really, really rubbish. It's not a good way for a character that you've played for a long time to go, that you've invested in, as part of that story arc and everything like that. That was crap. I've also had characters die in games where they've been in the middle of doing something meaningful and made a, you know, kind of, I guess, a character's made the ultimate sacrifice. If you lose a character like that, I think that's fine. You know, I think personally, you know, when I think back on it now, I was probably wrong to lose my temper for losing a character over a die roll. At the end of the day, it's a character. It's what happens in role-playing games. But I strongly feel that if you are going to lose a character, it should mean something. It shouldn't just be bounce one die and you're done.
Yeah.
I I wrote some rules actually for my book, The Secret Files of Section D. So I made some rules there for Savage Worlds called Blaze of Glory. So if your character takes a certain amount of damage and you know they're going to that this is the end for them, you can take this option called Blaze of Glory, which basically means all of your wound penalties are gone. The whole sort of death spiral thing is gone, but you have a finite number of actions left. So you know you're calling on your last vestiges of will to live or the final bit of strength to do one last heroic thing, and then you go. And I think if you're going to lose a character like that, that's fine. That's part of the story, and you know you can use that to create memorable moments.
Yeah.
So I think character death in RPG is something that, on occasion, is needed. It shouldn't. Oh, the other thing I'm going to say is it shouldn't be the goal for the GM. You should never have the GM versus the players. And you know, if the GM has made an encounter that the players or the player characters get through or scrape through, that's great, good for them. The GM shouldn't be disappointed because they've not killed a character this week or something like that. That's the wrong way to approach a role playing game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, I think even in short games, you know, you can become quickly attached to a characters. I mean, the one game where I think at some point character death is kind of almost encouraged is Dungeon Crawl Classics, where you have the character funnel, you know, and you're playing zero level characters. And in that, you know, death is expected. It's part of the play. But even then, you can become quite attached to them because if you've got 4-player characters that you're controlling, but you become attached to them and you're building up relationships not just between you and those characters, but the characters that the other players have got. And you feel, you know, and they come alive because they're being pushed to overcome a situation which as ordinary sort of like peasants they wouldn't normally experience, and they grow from it. You know, they'll come away sort of going, oh my God, whether or not I want to go back to be a peasant, or I've got enough XPs to be a hero now and gain a class, as it were. But, you know, and you think back, oh, poor Johnny, who got crushed by, you know, by a falling slab of rock. That was horrible, you know, but I survived.
Yeah.
If you're playing a character funnel kind of scenario, though, that's the expected thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of that is that you start off with four characters or something like that, and the one that's left at the end is the one that you play.
Yeah, essentially,
moving forward in the game.
It's well, and I mean, or even if you're really lucky, all 4 survive, and you get to pick.
Yeah.
I mean, even to the point, or even the nice thing is the fact is essentially is that most of them are written so there's a ready supply of characters just off screen, which you can bring back in if people lose characters, or if you're playing, you know, the other players begin to share their characters with you, so you end up playing a character that someone else has played. I mean, there's not much creation gone into them, but you inherit them and inherit all the relationships and their ambitions and that sort of thing, and then develop it a bit further.
Cool. Also, as well, with sort of like high danger sort of games, like for example, Alien, for example. The way character creation works like that is quite simple, and then as we, you know, the Alien universe is quite dangerous, and if you're playing like a one-off game, your character's going to die at some point. Well, sorry, I'll rephrase that. It may die at some point because of the high risk levels of that particular universe, and this was sort of shown quite clearly at the first year they showed it off at the Games Expo. I managed to get a seat on one of the demos, and my daughter joined me, and my character killed her character. I shoved her into the path of an oncoming alien creature to save my own skin, because I was one of my agendas, I was a company man, so I was saving, in my eyes, a company asset, which was me. So to survive this scenario, I had to sort of sacrifice another employee of the company, so that my particular skill set was saved and I could move on. Now, she died instantly. It was gone. But the way character creation worked, there was the NPCs in the next scene that we went to was the next room, it was a garage or a maintenance bay. Cowering underneath the table was a mechanic, and she got given stats for that and just carried on. And it was literally seamless, and that to me was quite clever, and it sort of took away the whole that sort of aspect of sort of, well, I've just got to sit here and wait till it's going to be mission. I'm not.
Well, I think that's it, isn't it? That's part of that game, part of that universe, and it's advancing the story.
Yes.
So I think in those circumstances, your character dying in a role-playing game is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was going to say, there is one important question you've not answered here, which is, has she forgiven you yet?
Well, the looks on the faces of the other player. I had the choice to push one of the other players into the path of the alien to save myself, and because I didn't know them, two guys who I never met after the game, we joined at the table. I thought, I don't want to upset complete strangers, but I know my daughter would be understanding of it, and she'd have a blast. She was as shocked as everyone else, but then, like she said afterwards, but it's all right, Dad, because I know you, and that's just one of the things that you do.
What she's saying is that's just the evil git you are.
Yes, basically, she's polite enough not to turn around and go, "Well, I know what an absolute swine you are." She's right.
So, come the zombie apocalypse, your daughter's going to be nowhere near you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. She will, or she'll try and take me out first, which means she's learned. So, good girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. But yeah, it worked. Everyone else's faces, including the guy running it, with an absolute picture. Brilliant. But just to even things up, my character did die at the end.
Yeah. I've only ever played Alien once, and it's pretty hard to get out of to get out the other end of a game, of a session. Yeah.
He was trapped in a corridor with a big bag of money, because he was the only survivor at that time for a bank raid, and he was on the ground, injured from wounds taken from a sentry gun, which was slowly running out of ammo, which you know they do. And down the far end of the corridors, inching their way closer and closer, were these horrible, scuttling alien creatures. And he was like,
I'm going to throw a little plug out here as well, guys. I hope you don't mind. But if you like that kind of mechanic and that kind of game, there's a board game that's going to hit Game Found fairly soon called Pandora Celeste, and it is amazing. It's every trope from every sort of 80s creature feature kind of movie, all rolled into one, and it's got those, like, the treachery mechanics and the agendas that's in the Alien game, and it just plays really well as a board game. Pandora Celeste it's called, and it's really, really good. It's well worth having a look at if you're into your board games.
Oh, we'll look into that. Right, I think that covers that for now. So, Pookie, move on to you, please, sir.
My 20-sided die.
Have a look.
And It's dark in here. I've rolled an 18.
Oh, an 18, nice high number for change. What we got? Gonna have to scroll down. Oh, okay. It's a bit of an odd one, but hopefully you'll be all right with it. What do you get out of and enjoy about role-playing games?
A lot of things. It's the diversion nature of exploring another world, being another character, of doing things. It's called the classic things of being able to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do in ordinary run of life. I'm not going to go off and be be a marine in outer space, or a halfling in the old world in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And combined with that, you're working with people to create a story together and interact and sort of like build a world and a relationships with each other, so that as you come to know your character, you come to know a bit about them, and how that sort of like pushes the relationships on and so on, over the course of ongoing adventures. And also out of it, I think in some cases it can be, depends on the game. You can get a lot of humor and fun out of a game, especially if the tone of the game is that way inclined. Ultimately, the experience is of being in another world, doing something you would never imagine doing, but doing it as a group. It's not a case of going and doing it as a computer game. Yes, you can enjoy that, but that's primarily a single experience. It's having that experience and sharing it.
Yeah, that's like the core. That is the core difference, isn't it? Really, between, for example, Baldur's Gate on whatever you're playing it on, and if you're like having the same role-playing experience around the table, it would be very, very different, because as a group you're going to bring all kinds of things to it, be it humor or different ideas. So yeah, as a group exercise, I don't think there's a lot like it, is there?
No, and I mean the thing is, that can be played over months and months and months, or if you've got something like for the Queen, that can be played in half an hour, and you can get that kind of same experience of telling a story and building relationships, because of the way the game is designed. It's very simple, but it really does engender quite meaningful relationships and stories. And that's the great flexibility of role-playing games, is essentially that, you can get something out of a game, in an hour, that you might also get out at the same time, build and build and build up into one that has been going on for years.
Yeah, it's quite wide and varied, the experiences, but it essentially it's still the same, no matter how, what rules and sort of, what you're doing and to where you're doing it setting wise. It's still this collective experience that I really can't, I don't see replicated in much. Even like the whole sort of like online, like certain games where you join with a group. It's not the same sort of experience, because you're not shaping the story, are you?
No, I mean the nearest you've got to it, it's sort of like improvisational theatre.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or some of those team building days, corporate team building days. Here's a plank of wood and a piece of rope. Get across this ravine.
For fun, yeah.
But I would, just to add to that, all I'm going to say is, what have you got out of role playing? Well, I've got some of my oldest and best friends out of role playing.
Yeah.
I still meet up with guys who I've played games with since I was in my mid-teens. So getting on 40 years.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. It's the fact that it's sometimes also meeting new people as well and gaming with them. So for example, during lockdown, we got chatting to a couple of Americans, and we typically chat once or twice a week online, a Zoom meeting, just catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the end of lockdown, And then we said, oh, this is great. Okay, what are we going to do? And somebody said, oh, I know. Why don't we all go to Gen Con and meet up? And we all went, yeah, wow, that's a brilliant idea. And so we arranged to share a house at Gen Con with each other's families and go and play games. And the thing is, we got off the plane, got the lift, got to the house, and we'd never met these people, these guys before. But it was like we just stepped off the screen, and the jokes and the relationship continued.
Yes.
And we're going to do the same thing again this year.
Oh, there you
Brilliant.
go.
Brilliant.
Just briefly as well, I would add that this is also an amazing thing that's happened because of our shared passion and interest for role-playing games and things like that. I would have never met you two very interesting people and had the opportunity to do this. So for that, I'm grateful. And I get a lot out of it as well, which is quite cool. So moving on, I'm going to roll for myself, and I promise not to cheat. The questions are in a set order, so whatever I get, I'm not going to look. And to be honest with you, my memory, I can't remember. So here we go. I'm going to roll. I have got a 7, which is. Here we go. What advice about running games has stayed with you the most? Easy one, really. Malcolm Craig, writer for A State and quite a few others. He always talked about what was it? Don't use the word no. Use the words yes, things like that, and sort of it allows to sort of it sort of opens up choice and add sort of more sort of options and interest in the game, because if people keep saying, if it's like no, it's quite off-putting and limiting. But the one piece of advice that he did give that always stuck with me was I think it was on the website part of like a blog he was doing or something, and it was to do with creating games, not so much running them, creating them, and like to do with background for the setting itself and adventures. And at the time, he was very keen on this whole idea of sort of there being more than one version of the truth. For example, what the local gossip was, what the actual truth was, what was actually happening, what people thought was happening, and say another example, it might have been the theological truth, if it was to do with something religious, or three truths, and from that you got what was actually going on, or you could cherry pick as the GM and go, well, you know what, in my world, this particular setting, this happens. It's not set in stone. So I can, I've had this idea that, the factory at the end of the street, is using human flesh to bake in its pies, or no, it's actually just a normal bakery. All these things are lies, or there's a strange supernatural creature at the centre of it, causing causing chaos and gaining power because it's sort of getting people to fear. So there's use your own imagination to run a setting however you like, regardless of what is written by the initial author. And to me, that has stayed ever since I read it. I thought, oh yeah, because at the end of the day, I bought the book, downloaded it or whatever. I've got a copy. The person who's created it isn't sat there next to me going, well, actually, no, I think you'll find that's not how I envisioned it. You need to do it this way. It's from your head, just run with it, have such fun. That's why I ran the Rippers game in the theatre. Like I've mentioned, I've got the players for the entire session just to babysit, Dracula's concubines. Because why the hell not? And it worked. They still talk about it today. That was back when I was, 15, 16. I'm 47 now, and they still talk about it. So, just do mad, weird stuff and just create your own. And essentially, that's what he was saying. Just do what you want. Basically.
I think the best bit of advice that was ever given to any GM was in the AD&D Player's Handbook, and it says these are guidelines.
Absolutely.
Because for me, and this is something that I was told the first time I was going to run a game, similar to what you've just said, Chris, is that the guy who'd been our dungeon master, because it was Redbox D&D was the first thing I ever ran. And so the guy that had been our dungeon master, all he said was, don't be in the rule book every 5 minutes. Just you've got your story, let that go. You know enough of the rules. If you need to wing it, wing it. The only time you need to go in the rule book is if somebody really, is aggrieved at something that you've done as the game master. That's not to say that you should run a game without knowing the rules, but it's like when I run a Worlds game, I will come up with a mechanic on the fly to do something that needs to be done in the game. There's a classic example. I was running a game at the Dudley Bug Ball, and there's a big set piece fight at the end, where you've got the player characters and a couple of the sort of main bad guys, and these guys are sort of duking it out. But in the background, you've got you've got two big forces going at each other as well, and Savage Worlds has got a mass battle system. But the thing is, it takes ages. It takes a long time to do, and it interrupts the story where you're trying to do everything else. So I make up a mechanic on the fly and just say, right, these guys are mooks. They're going to roll these dice, and for every success they get, one of the other group gets taken out. Simple as that. And then with one die roll, you've got two big groups of combatants slowly whittling away at one another, and you can just carry on telling the story. You just make that up on the fly. Nobody complained, oh, you should be using the mass battle system for this.
Obviously, no, because
everybody's enjoying the game, and that's the best bit of advice I ever got, was stick to your story and don't be in the rule book every 5 minutes.
I was a proper rules lawyer with D&D 3rd edition. I was not nice to be at a table with as a GM or a player. Just basically have fun and just that's fun.
That's one of the things that I love about Castles and Crusades is it's actually designed to be really flexible. Sorry, Pookie, I interrupted.
That's all right. I was going to say, I would add a really simple thing, which is listen to your players, okay? As you're playing or running the game, listen to your players and listen to their discussions, because sometimes they'll come up with a better idea than you've got, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And then you can steal it, okay? And then, and the thing is, don't steal it wholesale. Steal it and just tweak it a little bit so that it looks like you've made it, you've decided upon it. But when they find out that their assumption is real, okay, it's actually the truth.
Yeah.
That empowers them. That makes them feel, oh my God, I was right.
Mm-hmm. The I knew it moment.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you've got like 5 people sat in front of you at a table, or online even, and then one of them turns around and goes, "I bloody told you so. I told you." And it's like, yes, that's an awful lot of people talk about, like, winning. That is, I think, the only time you win in any role-playing game as a GM. It's only ever time is when you successfully give your players what they want, and that is entertainment and memorable entertainment. That forget defeating them with X creatures or whatever. That's not winning. That's a rather childish version of winning. It's like, oh yeah, I killed 6 player characters last week. It was awesome. You won't have any players left.
Well, okay, I mean, unless you're playing a decent Dungeon Crawl Classics funnel, then no.
Yeah, true, there is that.
Maybe that should be our piece of GM advice for the day: is the GM never wins.
Yes.
You're not supposed to win.
No,
the players are supposed to win. Your bad guy is supposed to get the good news at some point.
I mean, I will qualify that with ultimately the bad guy can win
sometimes
temporarily.
Yeah, but like you say, ultimately, or as I said, at some point, the bad guy gets the good news. That's what it's all about.
What point if you're doing it, really, in the end? Really.
Yeah, you got to tell a story where the heroes win.
Yes. For the most part, or the evil GM of me's coming out there, but never mind. So anyway, we're going to draw that to a close. If you like this sort of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Once again, thank you to Pookie and Allan for joining me on this.
Welcome.
And we will be back soon. So again, thank you very much. See you soon.
Oh, you're welcome.
Welcome.